Before we get into this video, I just wanted to let you guys know that I have actually made a Patreon now. The link will be in description, and if you want to know how you can support this channel and my work, please click it and have a look for it. Thank you. So before we get into this, it is imperative that we understand the importance of symbolism and how it actually changes our neurological configuration. So this video is pretty much going to be about symbolism in the 21st century and the archetype of Saturn. So first of all, we need to obviously ascertain a definition for symbolism and what it does, how it works. And for me, the best way to highlight this is with an example. So let's take the swastika. Now, if I left my house with a swastika on my t-shirt, you can bet your ass I'll get some looks from people depending on where I am, some frowns, some head shakes, and depending on where I was, I could possibly get checked for wearing that. Somebody could come up to me, ask me why the hell I'm wearing that. Someone could just run up to me and sucker punch me, because it's the message that comes along with that symbol. Okay? Naturally, because of Hitler, our brain has associated it with the Holocaust. But now, say for instance, if that same person came up to me and asked me why I was wearing it, and I said that I was actually a Hindu, and I wear the t-shirt because it represents the dual nature of the universe maintained by the sun and aspects of Kali, the goddess of time and death, chances are they would shut the fuck up and walk away swiftly. Okay? With that being said, as my example just demonstrated, a symbol can represent more than one thing. There's a great saying, a picture says 1,000 words, but a symbol is 1,000 pictures. And you probably don't realise it, but believe me, most of your life is moulded by symbols that you see and use. And movies and magazines and social media work in the exact same respect, okay? These symbols are archetypes. We've spoken about this before, so you should have an idea of what I'm talking about, but if you don't, archetypes are symbols, or essentially ideas and ways of thinking inherited from all of your sensory input, presented in your subconscious in one tidy little package. Okay, archetypes get embedded quite literally in our subconscious mind. By that I mean the part of your mind that is free from conscious awareness. Another really good example of this, how archetypes work, is the symbol of an evergreen tree decorated with lights and trinkets. Typically, if we saw this symbol, we'd think of Christmas. That is an archetype for Christmas. So without consciously thinking about it, you're made to think about snow and presents and all the other shit that we associate with Christmas just from seeing this evergreen tree with a few lights on the top of it. Doesn't even have to necessarily be a Christmas tree. And depending on your past experience with Christmas, you could either then feel happy, excited, sad, or even depressed. Emotions all elicited from seeing this one symbol of an evergreen. Ultimately, archetypes act like a shortcut to your conscious and subconscious mind, eliciting varying degrees of responses. Your subconscious mind is always active, soaking up everything that it comes into contact with. However, because of this, it is always suggestible, meaning unless you are conscious of it, it will always be susceptible to programming. Okay, so I hope that made sense. Now that we have that out of the way, let's move on to the main point of this video, and this is the archetype of Saturn, or El, the true timekeeper, the true lord of the golden ring, the hard-headed bull god of the Old Testament. Saturn has been deified under many titles. He was Kronos to the Greeks, Saturnus to the Romans, to the Egyptians he was alternatively known as Osiris, the Sumerians called him Ninus, while the Assyrians named him Bel. To the Phoenicians and Canaanites he was known as BAAL, like Beelzebub. Also, the figure from who these various legends extend is none other than Nimrod, the mighty hunter. Nimrod was the grandson of Ham and the great-grandson of Noah, and was the first deified Babylonian king. Now, post-deluge or post-flood, we see the re-establishment of Nimrod worship, just under different names. Essentially, Nimrod, or Saturn, worship appears in all scripture. So all of these names apply, and I'm going to show you how Saturn worship drives this entire matrix we live in, how it seeped into our language, and how millions of people every day unknowingly pay homage to its archetype. Okay, so let's get into the meat of this. Now, one of the most famous symbols in the world, known in every continent, probably will have this symbol somewhere on an item of clothing, and that is Nike. However, before we go any further, what we need to do is look at Nike. What is Nike? Where'd they get that name from? Did you know that there is a Greek goddess called Nike? She was the goddess of victory. Okay, now pause real quick. So you can see why they've used the name of the goddess of victory for a sports brand, right? Logic, because sports is based in competition. Competition creates duality. As a result, there is always a winner and a loser. In any sport, we strive to be what? Be victorious. So Nike, the goddess of victory, fits perfectly for a sports-based brand. They also clearly have a hoodie with the goddess of victory written on it, so that's just not up for discussion. Now we move on to the logo. The logo. The symbol for Nike. What do we have? We have the tick, or the swoosh, or the slash. Yeah? Now, does that remind you of anything? What about the sickle that Saturn is always portrayed holding? Because he is the god of fertility and god of harvest, and when Saturn comes to collect, all will be taken. Like the harvest month is September, that's why Saturn came to collect on September 11th. This is why Saturn is often represented as the Grim Reaper. And we've spoke about this before. Out of the 7 primary wanderers, Saturn had the longest observable pattern in the sky, that being it takes 29.5 years to orbit the sun. Hence he was deified as a grey-haired old man, typically seen to be with a child, a very young child that is, to represent the cycles of life and death. Does this not also look exactly like the left half of the CGI image that we're always shown of Saturn? Half of the ring. Not only that, but I mentioned before, the goddess Nike was championed as the deity of victory. Consequently, when they erected monuments of her, she was shown killing or sacrificing a bull as a sign of victory, as you can see here. Remember earlier I mentioned Saturn, or El, was the hard-headed bull god, right? Well, this comes from the Phoenician and Canaanite pantheon. Saturn El was also personified as both Baal and Moloch, the ancient god of child sacrifice, and the god that was also worshipped by King Solomon himself. So we have Nike, the goddess, and the bull in ancient Greece. And we have the sports brand, Nike, who chooses to use the slash logo, which is heavily symbolic of both the sickle and the golden ring of Saturn. Or say the slashing of a bull's throat, no? Also, Nike's slogan, just do it.
Do it! Just do it!
Doesn't that fit as a seemingly perfect axiom for a Saturn alien model of the universe, where we're all just living out of our base chakras, acting off impulse with absolutely no fucking self-control, pretty much like 99% of the population? Yeah, don't worry about karmic law or collective consciousness. Don't worry about how you're corroding your relationship between you and your true self. Just do it. Okay, so at this point, if you are skeptical, and I'm sure probably most of you are, because people don't believe that the powers that be operate like this, okay? Or if you're just sitting there thinking, I'm mixing theologies and this is just an eclectic nightmare and things are all over the place, this is just all coincidence, well, I've got one more thing to show you. And you've got every right to think that. Everybody has a right to make their own decision. Whether it be a fucking stupid decision, it doesn't really matter. But I do have another layer to add to this that is going to really bring it home to you. But before I do, if you genuinely think that all of this that I've shown you up until now is coincidence, then I'm truly sorry to say that you have been hoodwinked, you've been duped, you've been lied to, you've been programmed. Okay, check this. Nike and Saturn. Let's check the Gematria values of this. I'm just going to let that marinate for a sec. So you can't tell me that what is in front of you is coincidence, okay? And what that is in front of you, that is both the Gematria value of Saturn and Nike in the 4 base ciphers. And yes, they are a match in all 4 ciphers. So now what do you think? Taking away all the synchronicities that I've just showed you, the fact that these 2 words have the same numerical value in 4 individual ciphers is checkmate. I caught your ass. Again, you're not sly. Motherfuckers. It's very rare to find a word. There's only few words that have 4-way matches. Very rare to find. Okay, so with this in mind, thinking about everything we've just discussed about Saturn, L, Satan, Set, or Santa Claus even, and yes, Santa is related to Saturn. It's an archetype. That's why he rides the sleigh and rings the bell and has a fat belly, because he's been eating children, hence the little baby. We know that Saturn was made synonymous with the Canaanite and Phoenician bull god, who was worshipped with child sacrifice. Again, relating back to taking your child to see Santa Claus, or Satan Claus, or Satan Klaus. Anyway, this bull god, like I said, was also worshipped by King Solomon, and can be seen in many logos today, and the most prolific being Red Bull. Red obviously being the colour used to represent our lowest chakra, our lowest anchoring point. And the bull representing, well, you already know what the bull represents, right? Or the BAAL. The sacred bull was a common theme in ancient teachings, and the patron god of Babylon, aka Marduk, who is commonly known to be Jupiter. His name also roughly translates into bull calf, so quote unquote Red Bull gives you wings, is a very slight but albeit accurate head nod to the history of the sacred winged bull, or BAAL. It also shows you that why they have the bronze charging bull statue on Wall Street. Wall Street, Bull Street, BAAL Street. You see how they just fuck with everything? Now think about the most famous basketball team of all time. The Chicago Bulls, with their star player Mike L. Jordan, who won 6 rings. 6 rings like which planet? Oh, Saturn? Remind you of anything? Now I'm definitely not here to just shit on like people's heroes, but most of your heroes have been compromised, and if I'm the one who's got a bit of bearer of bad news, then so be it. This Saturnalian archetype has been in play for so long now, it's actually becoming quite stupid, and I'm going to show you how it's seeped into our language as well, especially with the prefix L.